The alien market was loud and crowded, filled with the smell of burning oils and strange foods. Merchants shouted at the top of their lungs, each one trying to sell brighter cloth, sharper weapons, or sweeter fruits than the next. Strange lights glowed above the stalls, and people pushed past each other without care. In this storm of voices, most humans would have walked on, unnoticed and ignored. But this human stopped. He froze because he heard something different, a sound too soft for the busy noise, yet sharp enough to pierce through it. A cry, a weak, trembling voice that did not belong to the loud market. It was not the cry of a seller or a drunk fighter. It was a desperate cry. Please, please help me. The human turned his head, trying to follow the sound. At first, he thought he had imagined it. Then he heard it again. He pushed through the crowd, past a stall of burning meat, past a pile of metal scraps, until he found a corner almost hidden from the light. There, behind a line of broken cages, he saw her. A young alien girl, thin and pale, chained inside a rusted iron cage. Her hands were tied, her eyes wide and filled with fear. The crowd around her did not care. Some pointed at her, laughing. Others shook their heads, calling her cursed. The merchant who owned the cage leaned lazily against the wall, chewing on dried roots, not caring at all. The human stopped in front of the cage. He could not believe what he was seeing. The girl looked no older than 16 in human years. Her skin shimmered faintly under the light, marked with bruises and scars. Her clothes were torn, barely covering her thin body. She looked up at him, and for a moment their eyes met. Her lips moved slowly. "You hurt me," she whispered, her voice so weak it was almost a breath. "Please, don't leave me here." The human felt something twist inside his chest. Around him, the crow. Dee kept moving as if nothing unusual was happening. He turned to the people nearest to him. "Why is she in a cage? Why is no one helping her?" he asked. The merchant laughed, spitting his root on the ground. "She's nothing," he said with a cruel smile. "A cursed child, worthless, too dangerous for anyone to take. No one wants her." "But she's just a girl," the human replied, his voice hard. "Then leave her," someone in the crowd muttered. "She will bring death to whoever touches her." Another voice laughed. "If you have sense, human, you'll walk away now." The human looked at them, shocked at their coldness. He looked back at the girl, her eyes wide with terror, but also filled with a flicker of hope. She pressed her hands against the bars, the chain clinking with the sound of metal on metal. "Please," she whispered again. The human felt his fists tighten. He had traveled far, seen cruelty in many forms, but this was different. The laughter of the crowd cut through him like a blade. Everyone else had turned their backs, but her voice would not leave his ears. He leaned closer to the cage. "I hear you," he whispered. "I won't walk away." The girl's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in who knows how long, someone had answered her. But around them, the whispers of the crowd grew louder, darker. People stared at the human as if he had lost his mind. The merchant narrowed his eyes, sensing trouble. And in that moment, the human understood one thing. By stopping, by answering her cry, he had already made himself a target. The marketplace lights flickered, shadows deepened, and tension filled the air. The story had begun. The market did not stop for a single chained girl. People kept shouting, trading, and laughing as if her desperate voice was nothing but the buzzing of flies. To them, she was not worth even a glance. But to the human, every word she spoke struck like a hammer against his chest. He stood frozen, watching her trembling hands clutch the cold iron bars. The girl's lips were dry, her voice almost gone, yet she kept whispering, "Help me, please." He turned to the merchant again. "Let her out," he said, his voice sharp this time. "She doesn't belong in a cage." The merchant leaned forward, his grin showing yellow teeth. "Why should I? She is not worth the space she breathes. You don't understand, human. That one," he pointed at the girl with a dirty finger, "is trouble. She brings misfortune. Ask anyone here." A tall alien from the crowd shouted, "I saw her touch her own brother, and he died the next day." Another spat on the ground. "Her whole family abandoned her. She's cursed." The human looked around. Not one face showed pity. Some sneered, some laughed, others backed away as if even standing near her was dangerous. It was madness. A young life was wasting away in a cage and no one cared. The human's jaw tightened. "All of you hear her cry," he said, raising his voice. "Yet you do nothing. What kind of people are you?" The crowd grew restless. Whispers turned to murmurs. Some hissed, "Foolish human, he doesn't know the danger." Others shook their heads and walked away, not wanting to be involved. The girl's eyes never left him. In those eyes, the human saw both terror and hope, as if she could not decide whether to trust him or fear that he would also walk away like the rest. Her fingers slipped on the bars, too weak to hold on. "Please," she whispered again, softer now, as if her last strength was leaving her. The human knelt near the cage, ignoring the res of the crowd. He whispered back, "I hear you. I won't forget your voice." The merchant let out a cruel laugh. "Then buy her, human. Take her if you want. But don't come crying to me when misfortune eats you alive. She is cursed. You'll regret even touching her." The human's eyes narrowed. "How much?" The crowd gasped. A ripple of shock moved through them. Had they heard correctly? A human wanting to take the cursed one? Whispers turned to loud voices. "He's insane. He'll bring her doom to us all. Someone stop him." But no one stepped forward. They were too afraid to come near the cage. The merchant smirked, enjoying the attention. "She's worthless," he said, pretending to think. "But if you insist, the price is not in gold or silver. The price is your own safety. You take her, you take the curse too." The human stood slowly. His heart pounded in his chest. He had not planned to involve himself in anything today. He had only come to this market for supplies. But now, standing before this fragile girl, hearing her cry when no one else dared to listen, he felt a pull stronger than reason. He glanced at her once more. She was shivering, her eyes wet, her lips pale. No one else would risk it. No one else would care. And in that silence, a decision hardened inside him. "I'll take her," the human said firmly. The market erupted in chaos. Gasps, shouts, laughter, even curses filled the air. Some aliens backed away as if he carried poison. Others mocked, yelling, "The human is a fool!" The merchant's grin widened, his sharp teeth glinting under the lights. The girl, still chained, stared at him in disbelief. For the first time, her eyes widened not in fear, but in fragile, breaking hope. The human had spoken the words no one else dared to say. He had chosen, and there would be no turning back. The air in the market felt heavier after the human spoke. His words, "I'll take her," hung like thunder above the crowd. Every face turned toward him, some twisted with fear, others with laughter. They whispered as if he had signed his own death sentence. The chained girl pressed her forehead to the bars, eyes wide, tears glimmering. She could not believe what she had heard. For so long no one had cared, yet this stranger had chosen her. The merchant's grin widened. He pushed himself off the wall, walking closer to the human. His steps were slow, his eyes sharp like knives. "So you're serious then? You truly want to take her? You're braver or more foolish than I thought." The human stood firm, though his heart pounded in his chest. "I don't care what you call her. I want her free." The merchant chuckled, low and cruel. "Free? Ha! Nothing in this world is free, human, especially not her. You think you can just open the cage and walk away?" He leaned close, his breath hot and sour. "No, there must be a price." The human clenched his fists. "Name it." The merchant tapped the iron bars with his dirty finger. "Her price is not in coin or goods. Her price is in risk. Once she is yours, all her misfortune belongs to you. Her curse, her danger, her enemies, every shadow she drags behind her will now follow you. That is the bargain." The human stared at him, then at the girl. She looked smaller than ever, trembling as though her body might collapse. He thought of leaving, just walking away like everyone else. It would be easier, safer. But when he met her eyes again, he knew he couldn't. There was something in them, fragile and desperate, that demanded an answer. He spoke slowly but firmly. "I accept." The merchant laughed, throwing his head back. "Then take her. Take the cursed thing, and may your life rot faster than hers." With a cruel twist of a key, he unlocked the cage. The heavy chains clattered as he pulled them loose, but he did not touch her. He stepped back, leaving the human to take the risk himself. The girl flinched when the door opened. She had dreamed of freedom for so long, but now that it stood before her, fear gripped her heart. Would this human be different, or would he throw her away once the curse touched him? The human knelt by the cage. His voice softened. "Come, you're safe now." Her body shook as she crawled forward. Chains still clung to her wrists, but the door was open. She lifted her head slowly, meeting his eyes. He did not look away. He did not laugh. He did not call her worthless. For the first time, someone looked at her as if she mattered. With trembling steps, she came out of the cage. The crowd gasped and stepped back as though the curse itself had spilled into the market. Some shouted warnings, others cursed the human, but no one dared to stop him. The girl stumbled, too weak to stand. Without hesitation, the human caught her in his arms. She felt light, fragile, like carrying a wounded bird. Her head fell against his chest and she whispered in disbelief, Why are you doing this?" The human's jaw tightened. "Because no one else would." The crowd erupted into chaos, jeers, shouts, and laughter chasing them as the human lifted the girl and began to walk away. The merchant's cruel grin followed them until they vanished into the streets. The bargain had been struck. The human had taken her curse upon himself. And now, in a city that wanted her gone, both of them were hunted. The human carried the alien girl through the winding streets of the city. His steps were steady, though his heart raced with every echo behind him. He could still hear the market crowd shouting, their voices full of curses and laughter. They would not forget what he had done. He had taken the cursed girl, and that meant trouble was already coming. The girl clung weakly to his chest, her chains rattling softly. Her voice was faint, almost lost in the wind. "You should have left me. They will come for you now." The human looked down at her, his jaw set. "Let them come. I won't put you back in that cage." The streets grew darker as he moved farther from the market lights. Torches flickered on stone walls, shadows stretching like long fingers. The city was alive with noise, merchants closing stalls, drunkards laughing in alleys, patrol soldiers clanking in armor as they marched. He kept his head low, weaving through the crowd, but whispers followed them like ghosts. "That's him, the fool with the cursed one. Look, he's carrying her, he's insane. They'll both be dead by morning." The girl buried her face in his chest as if hiding from their words. Her small frame trembled. She had heard those cruel voices her whole life, but this time, someone was still holding her. A sharp whistle pierced the night. The human's blood ran cold. Soldiers. Behind him, armored feet struck the stone. The merchant had wasted no time. He had sent guards after them. The human cursed under his breath and quickened his pace, but the soldiers' shouts rang out, "Stop! Release the girl!" The human turned a corner, his boots pounding against the cobblestones. The girl tried to lift her head. "You can't fight them. Please, just leave me. If you drop me now, they might let you live." He shook his head without slowing. "I didn't take you to give you back." The narrow streets stead ahead of them. The human's eyes scanned desperately for a way out. He spotted a broken archway leading to the ruins of an old building. Without hesitation, he slipped inside. Dust and spiderwebs filled the air, and the roof had collapsed long ago. But it gave them cover, at least for a moment. He set the girl down gently against a stone wall. She winced, her wrists raw from the chains. He crouched, listening for the sound of soldiers. It was growing louder, closer. "They won't stop," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but her eyes locked onto his. "Why are you risking this? You don't even know me." The human stared at her, then away, his mind flashing with memories of faces he had once failed to protect. He clenched his fists. "Because I know what it feels like when no one comes." The girl's lips parted, but no words came. For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the shouts of soldiers drawing nearer. The human stood. "We can't stay here. Can you walk?" She tried to rise but stumbled. Her body was too weak. Without a word, he lifted her again. The old door at the back of the ruins creaked as he pushed it open. Beyond lay a narrow passage leading into the lower city. The soldiers' voices echoed behind them. "They went this way! Find them!" The human hurried into the passage, his every step echoing like thunder in his ears. He knew the city was a maze, but he had walked through worse places before. All he needed was time. The girl's breath was shallow against his shoulder, but he felt her eyes on him. For the first time there was no despair in them, only fragile trust. As the passage opened into a dark street, the human whispered to himself, "No cage will ever hold her again." But in the shadows above, another whistle cut the air. More soldiers. The hunt was just beginning. The human pushed through the narrow alleys until the noise of the soldiers faded into the distance. His breath was heavy, but he did not slow until he reached the outskirts of the city. There, half hidden behind old stone walls, he found an abandoned storehouse. Its roof sagged, its door was broken, but it would give them a little safety for the night. He stepped inside, the floor creaking beneath his boots. The air smelled of dust and mold, but it was quiet. He laid the alien girl down gently on a pile of cloth scraps. She winced, curling her arms close to her chest as if afraid of even being touched. "You're safe here," the human said softly. "No one will find us tonight." The girl's eyes searched his face, uncertain, as though still expecting betrayal. She pulled her torn clothes tighter around herself, trying to hide, but the human had already seen enough. Her arms were thin, marked with bruises. Around her ankles, deep red scars circled her skin, where chains had once dug in. "Who did this to you?" he asked, his voice low, almost shaking. She looked away. "It doesn't matter. It's always been this way, since I was small." The human sat across from her, fists clenched. "It does matter. No one deserves this." Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Silence filled the room, heavy and painful. Finally, the human stood, searching his bag. He pulled out a small flask of water and a strip of clean cloth. He knelt beside her. "Let me help," he said. The girl tensed, pressing herself against the wall. "Don't, please. If you touch me, the curse will fall on you. That's what they all said. That's why no one comes close." The human paused, then slowly placed the flask on the ground between them. His voice was calm, steady. "If I believed in their curse, I wouldn't be here. Drink. You need strength." Her eyes flicked to the flask, her throat dry. She hesitated, then, with trembling fingers, she reached out. She drank slowly, drops of water spilling down her chin. It was the first kindness she had tasted in a long time. When she was done, the human lifted the cloth. "May I?" he asked. Her eyes widened. No one had ever asked her before. She gave the smallest nod. Gently, he wrapped the cloth around her wrists, covering the raw wounds left by chains. She flinched at first, but his touch was careful, never rough, never cruel. He worked in silence, binding her scars as though they mattered, as though she mattered. Tears welled in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "You don't even know me. They were right. You should have left me." The human looked into her trembling eyes. "Because no one else would. Because I can't walk away from someone who's crying for help. Not again." His last words slipped out like a shadow of his past, something she did not understand. But she felt the weight in his voice. For a long moment, they sat in silence. She studied his face, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, the way his hands moved with care. Something inside her chest ached, something she thought had died long ago. Hope. But outside, the night was not silent. In the distance, faint shouts and whistles cut through the wind. The hunt had not stopped. The merchant and his soldiers would not rest until she was back in chains. The girl's body shook. "They're coming. They'll never stop. You'll be killed because of me." The human stood, his shadow stretching across the ruined storehouse. He checked the knife at his belt, his face hardening. "Then let them come. I'd rather die fighting than leave you to them." The girl's tears fell freely now. For the first time in her life, someone was willing to bleed for her. And in that ruined storehouse, under the broken roof and the rising fear, a bond stronger than chains began to form. The storehouse was dark and quiet, but the human did not sleep. He sat near the broken door, eyes fixed on the empty street outside. His hand never left the knife at his side. Every distant sound, wind against stone, a dog barking, footsteps far away, kept him alert. He knew the silence would not last. The alien girl lay curled up on the cloth scraps. For the first time in years, her breathing was steady, her eyes closed in fragile rest. She looked almost peaceful, but the chains on her wrists were a cruel reminder that peace could never last. The human thought of her scars, of her voice whispering, "Please help me." He had chosen her, chosen to carry her curse, and now the weight of that choice was already pressing down on him. Suddenly, a sharp whistle cut through the night air. His body stiffened. He knew that sound. Soldiers. He rose quickly, moving to the girl's side. "Wake up," he whispered firmly. "They found us." Her eyes snapped open, fear flooding them. She sat up, her thin hands trembling. "I told you. They won't stop. They'll hunt me forever. Please, leave me. Save yourself while you can." The human shook his head. "I'm not leaving you. Get up. We move now." She struggled to her feet, her legs weak. He steadied her, slipping her arm over his shoulder. The broken door creaked as they stepped outside, the cool night air carrying the sound of approaching boots. Torches flickered at the far end of the street. Shadows moved. 5, maybe 6 soldiers. Their armor gleamed as they spread out, blocking the road. "There!" one shouted. "The human has her." The girl's heart raced. She pulled at his arm. "Please, put me down. If they take me, they might let you live." The human's voice was steady but cold. "That's not happening." The soldiers marched closer, their spears raised. One of them sneered. "You don't know what she is, human. Give her up and maybe we'll spare your life." The human's eyes hardened. "I know exactly what she is. She's someone who deserves better than a cage." The soldier laughed. "Then you'll both die." The human pushed the girl behind him, his knife flashing in the torchlight. His stance was calm, almost defiant, though his heart pounded. He had fought before, but never with someone so fragile depending on him. The soldiers moved in, circling. The girl pressed her back against the wall, her chains rattling as tears filled her eyes. She wanted to scream, to tell him to run, but the words stuck in her throat. The first soldier lunged. The human sidestepped, slashing his knife across the man's arm. The soldier cried out, stumbling back. The crowd of soldiers roared in anger. The fight began. The human fought like a cornered wolf, his blades striking fast and sharp. Every time a soldier closed in, he struck, forcing them back. But they were many, and he was only one. The girl's chest heaved as she watched. Every blow, every strike tore at her heart. She had never seen anyone fight for her before. She pressed her chained hands against her lips, whispering prayers she had long forgotten. At last the human drove his blade into the ground between himself and the soldiers, his breath heavy. "I won't give her up," he growled. "If you want her, you'll have to kill me first." The soldiers hesitated. His words echoed through the night, strong and unbroken. None of them had expected such defiance. But more torches flared in the distance. Reinforcements. The human's jaw tightened. He could not fight them all. Not yet. He grabbed the girl's hand. "Run!" Together they darted into the shadows of another alley, the soldiers shouting after them. The hunt was not over. It had only grown more dangerous. And as the girl stumbled beside him, her tears streaming, she whispered, "Why do you keep risking even writhing for me?" The human answered without slowing, his voice hard and certain, "Because your life is worth it." The soldiers' shouts followed them into the night, the threat closer than ever. The night air stung his lungs as the human dragged the girl deeper into the city's shadows. His boots splashed through puddles, his grip tight on her hand as if he feared she might vanish if he let go. Behind them, the sound of armored boots thundered through the streets. The soldiers were not far. They reached the edge of the old district, where ruined houses leaned against each other like tired giants. The human stopped inside a crumbling courtyard, chest rising and falling heavily. He glanced around, only broken walls, shattered windows, and silence. "This place will hold for a while," he said. The girl sank to the ground, her chains rattling. Her body was shaking, not only from exhaustion, but from fear. She looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "You can't keep fighting them. There are too many. You'll die for nothing." The human crouched beside her, his eyes hard, but calm. "Listen to me. I've fought before. I've bled before. I know what it costs. But I will not let them put you back in that cage. If I fall, I'll fall standing between you and them." Her lips trembled. No one had ever spoken such words for her. She hugged her knees, whispering, "Why me? I am nothing. Worthless," they said. "Even my family abandoned me." The human's hand tightened into a fist. "Worthless?" His voice sharpened, cutting the silence. "No one who cries for help is worthless. No one deserves chains for simply existing. The girl lowered her gaze, tears spilling down her cheeks. His words broke through the wall of lies she had carried all her life. The human stood, pulling his knife free. He scanned the broken street, his figure dark and unyielding in the flickering moonlight. They'll come here soon. When they do, I'll hold them back. You stay behind me. Don't run, don't speak, just stay. The girl's voice cracked. You'll be killed. He turned slightly, his eyes catching the dia and light. Then I'll make sure they bleed before they touch you. The sound of footsteps grew louder, soldiers moving closer. Torches lit the darkness, throwing shadows across the ruined walls. The girl's heart hammered. She wanted to scream, to beg him to run, but her voice stuck in her throat. Then they came. Half a dozen soldiers stepped into the courtyard, their armor shining in the torchlight. The merchant was with them, his grin wide and cruel. There he is, he shouted, the fool who thinks he can steal what is mine. The human stepped forward, knife in hand, his stance strong. She's not yours. She's not anyone's. She's free now. The merchant laughed, his voice echoing. Free? That girl is nothing but a burden. You'll die defending her, and when you do, I'll chain her again and sell her to someone worse. The girl gasped, her body trembling. The human raised his knife. Then you'll have to kill me first. The soldiers moved in, circling. Their spears glinted in the firelight. The human did not step back. He stood tall, shoulders squared, eyes unflinching. His whole body spoke one truth: he would not move. The girl pressed her chained hands to her mouth, tears streaming. For the first time in her life, someone was ready to fight for her. Not for money, not for power, but simply because he refused to let her suffer. The soldiers hesitated, unnerved by his defiance. The merchant snarled, "What are you waiting for? Take them!" The courtyard filled with the sound of steel being drawn. The human tightened his grip on his knife. His voice, calm yet sharp, cut through the night. "Come then. Let's see who falls first." The soldiers advanced, but the human did not flinch. He stood like a wall between them and the girl, ready to bleed, ready to fight, ready to make his stand. And for the first time in her life, the chained girl believed that maybe, just maybe, she was worth saving. The courtyard filled with firelight as the soldiers spread out, their torches casting long shadows against the broken walls. The human stood in the center, knife in hand, his stance firm. Behind him, the alien girl crouched low, her chains rattling as she pressed herself against the stones. Her wide eyes darted from the soldiers to the human, fear and hope tangled together in her chest. The merchant stepped forward, his grin cruel, his voice loud. "Give her up, human. She is cursed. She will drag you to your death. Walk away, and we'll let you live." The human's jaw tightened. His answer came sharp and steady. "I will never hand her over." The soldiers laughed, their voices echoing in the ruined courtyard. One stepped closer, his spear raised. "You're one man against 10. Don't be a fool." The human took one step forward, his knife flashing in the torchlight. "Then come and see how a fool fights." The words cut the air like steel. The soldiers hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances. Something in the human's eyes unnerved them. He was not bluffing. He was ready to die here, and that kind of man was dangerous. The merchant's grin faltered, but only for a moment. He barked, "Take him down!" The first soldier lunged. The human moved swiftly, sidestepping the thrust and slashing across the man's arm. The soldier cried out, dropping his spear. Another rushed in, and the human kicked his knee, sending him crashing to the ground. The clash of steel and the cries of pain echoed through the night. The girl's heart pounded as she watched. Her hands shook, tears spilling down her face. No one had ever stood for her like this. Each time the human struck, she felt both terror and awe. He fought not for glory, not for gain, but for her. More soldiers advanced, their blades flashing. The human ducked, blocked, and countered, his movements fueled by raw determination. He fought. Like a man with nothing left to lose, like someone who had already carried too much loss in his life. But he was only one, and they were many. A spear grazed his arm, drawing blood. Another blow struck his shoulder, making him stagger. The girl gasped, clapping her chained hands over her mouth. The merchant laughed loudly. "See, even his courage cannot save him. Soon he will fall, and you will be mine again." The girl's tears burned. She wanted to scream, to fight, but she was too weak, too broken. All she could do was watch as the man bled for her. The human steadied himself, blood dripping from his arm. His voice thundered through the courtyard. You call her cursed, you call her worthless, but she is worth more than all of you combined, and I will not let you take her. His words rang out like fire, shaking even the soldiers' hearts. Some stepped back, their eyes uncertain. The merchant snarled, furious. Cowards! Finish him! The soldiers closed in once more. The human braced himself, knife held high. His body screamed with pain, but his spirit did not break. He stood tall, his figure lit by torchlight, a wall between the girl and her captors. The girl pressed her hands to the ground, her voice trembling. Please, don't die for me. The human glanced back just once, his eyes meeting hers. In them she saw no fear, only promise. I'm not dying tonight, he said. Then with a roar, he charged at the soldiers, driving them back with the fury of a storm. The courtyard exploded with the clash of steel, the cries of men, and the fire of defiance. The confrontation had begun, and its outcome would decide both their fates. The courtyard was chaos. Torches swung wildly, shadows danced across broken walls, and steel clashed with steel. The human fought like a storm, his knife flashing, his boots striking the ground with heavy force. Every time a soldier came close, he struck, pushing them back. His body ached, blood stained his sleeve, but still he stood. The alien girl pressed herself against the wall, her chained hands shaking as she watched. Each strike of his blade was like a heartbeat in her chest. She could not believe it. Someone was bleeding for her. Someone was choosing her over his own life. The merchant shouted above the noise, his voice filled with fury. Kill him! Break him! He is only one man! The soldiers surged forward, but the human's eyes burned with defiance. He slashed across one man's chest, kicked another into a broken pillar, and spun to block a third. But their numbers pressed harder, their spears thrusting closer. A spear tip tore across his side. He staggered but did not fall. The girl gasped, tears spilling down her face. Stop! Please stop hurting him, she cried, but her voice was lost in the clash. The human's knife clashed against a soldier's sword, sparks flying. His muscles screamed, but his spirit refused to break. He pushed forward with a roar, driving the soldier back. Then with one fierce strike, he shattered the soldier's blade. The crowd of enemies froze, stunned at his strength. The human turned, his chest heaving. His eyes fell on the girl's chains. For a moment, the fight around him seemed distant. Those chains, heavy and cruel, were the last pieces of her prison. His anger burned hotter. He shouted above the chaos, his voice carrying like thunder. No more chains! With sudden force, he slammed his knife against the iron links. Sparks flew as metal struck metal. The chains clattered, bending but not breaking. Soldiers lunged at him, but he kicked one away and struck again. The girl's eyes widened, hope filling them like fire. Stop him, the merchant screamed. Don't let him break them. But the human fought like a man possessed. Each strike against the chains was fueled by rage, each blow echoing with defiance. Blood dripped from his arm, his side throbbed with pain, but still he raised his knife again and again. Finally, with one last swing, the iron split. The chains snapped, clattering to the ground. The girl gasped, staring at her freed wrists. For a moment she couldn't breathe. She was no longer bound. The soldiers froze, shock spreading through them. The merchant's face twisted in fury. No, she belongs to me. The girl looked down at her broken chains, then at the human standing before her, bloodied but unyielding. Something inside her cracked open, a flood of strength she thought she had lost forever. She rose to her feet, no longer dragging iron behind her. Her voice, weak for so long, rang clear and sharp. I am not yours anymore. The soldiers hesitated. For the first time, they saw not a cursed girl, but someone freed, someone who might no longer be helpless. The human stepped in front of her, knife raised, his voice fierce. She is not worthless, she is free. His words shook the night. The soldiers faltered, their courage broken. Some stepped back unsure. Even the torches seemed to flicker at his roar. The girl's heart pounded. For the first time in her life, she was not just a prisoner waiting to be rescued. She was free because someone had chosen her. Her tears fell, but this time, they were not only of fear, they were of hope. The human tightened his grip on the knife, his stance strong despite his wounds. Come then, he growled at the soldiers. Try to take her again. The soldiers shifted uneasily. None dared to move first, and for the first time, the chains on her Wiarabore were gone, not just from her body but from her life. The courtyard fell silent. Broken spears lay scattered, torches burned low, and the soldiers who had rushed in moments before now stepped back, uncertain. Their armor still shone, but their courage had dimmed. The human stood in the center, his knife dripping with blood, his shoulders squared even though his body shook from exhaustion. Behind him, the alien girl stood on trembling legs, her broken chains lying at her feet. Her wrists were free, her eyes wide with disbelief. She touched her bare skin again and again, as if trying to make sure it was real. The merchant's furious voice broke the silence. "You fools, don't just stand there. Take her back, she is mine." But no soldier moved. They had seen the human fight with a will that no curse could break. They had seen him shatter the iron chains as if the girl's freedom was worth more than his own life. None of them wanted to step forward. The merchant snarled, spitting with rage. "Cowards! She is cursed! You'll regret this!" He turned and stormed into the darkness, his shouts fading into the night. The soldiers lowered their spears. One muttered, "He is mad." Another shook his head. "No, he is something else." Slowly, they melted away into the shadows, leaving only the human and the girl in the ruined courtyard. For a long moment, there was only silence. The girl stared at the human's back. His chest rose and fell heavily, his body marked with cuts and blood. And yet, even wounded, he stood tall, his knife still ready. She took a trembling step toward him. You didn't let them take me." Her voice broke, but it carried in the quiet. The human lowered his knife and turned. His eyes softened when they met hers. "I told you, you're not going back to that cage." Her throat tightened. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time they were different. Tears of release, not despair. She pressed her hands over her face, whispering, "I don't know how to thank you. No one ever stood for me. No one ever said I was worth saving." The human walked closer, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to thank me. You just have to live free." Her knees gave out, and she sank into him, her small frame shaking. For a moment he simply held her, his arms strong around her shoulders. In that broken courtyard, surrounded by ruins, the girl felt something she thought she never would again. Safety. Finally, the human helped her to her feet. The horizon was already turning pale. Dawn was coming. He looked toward the rising light, then back at her. "From now on," he said quietly, "you walk beside me. No more chains, no more cages. You decide where you go." Her lips parted in disbelief. "Beside you? You mean I'm not a burden?" He shook his head firmly. "Never." The girl's chest tightened with something new. Hope. She nodded slowly, wiping her tears. "Then I'll walk." Together they stepped out of the courtyard. The city behind them was still dangerous, but the first rays of sunlight broke over the rooftops, painting the streets gold. The girl felt the warmth touch her face, and for the first time, it did not feel cruel. It felt like a promise. As they walked, she whispered, almost too softly to hear, "You are the only one who heard me." The human glanced at her, his face tired but calm. "And I always will." They disappeared into the morning light. One human, one freed alien girl. The world ahead was uncertain, filled with enemies and dangers, but together they carried something stronger than chains, stronger than curses. They carried the beginning of a new life.